Hello, welcome back. I'm Dr. Lori Williams. Today I want to talk to you about your identity is conditional, and that's the problem. So let's jump right into it. Your identity is conditional. That's why you don't typically feel like yourself. It's why most people believe like they are who they are. There's no truth to that whatsoever. What they call identity isn't actually their true and authentic self. It's who they've had to be in order to adapt. So it's an adaptation in order to survive in this world. So you learned who to be based on what kept you feeling loved and safe, accepted, and essentially not rejected because nobody wants to be rejected, especially as a small child when all of this started to occur. So, for an example, if you were the easy one, being easy meant that you got to stay connected, not needing anything, putting everybody else's needs or emotions before your own, allows you to be easy and allows you to keep the people in your life that you love and that they say they love you. Being the strong one means that you're not a burden, means that you're not asking for too much. It's that, the hyper independence where you don't need to rely on other people in order to get through life. Being the good one means that you won't be abandoned, means that people are going to see your worth and your value and that you are good enough and worth staying for. And being needed means that you're not going to be left. It means that your relationships, the people in your relationships with you, aren't going to leave you behind and move on with their life without you in it. So your identity is typically formed around these kind of conditions. So it says you know, internally it's saying things like, if I am lovable if, and there's usually some action to that. You are lovable just because you are, because you're here, because you're worthy of it. It doesn't mean that you're not lovable if you put a verb after that, meaning like you're doing something. It's being lovable is not a verb. It's not something that you have to do or an expectation that you should have to meet in order to be lovable. Another one is I am safe when. Again, I am safe when I decide to be. Literally, that's it. I have to decide to be that I am going to be safe. Whether it's by myself or in my relationships, I get to be safe when. But unfortunately, this version of us, this identity that we have, tells us that I'm only safe when I have people around me that I love. That when I'm not alone, that's when I'm safe. Or that I'm accepted when I am, putting other people first, over giving, over explaining, all those kinds of things. This is not actually an identity. This is an unspoken contract that we have in our relationships. And this contract says, if I am this way to this person in this relationship, then I'm going to meet all these requirements. Therefore, I'm going to be safe. This is what's going on in the nervous system. And essentially, I mean, none of that is true. And once that identity starts to change or to dissolve, these relationships will typically fall apart. So this unspoken contract, is technically is what's kind of keeping you safe. It's what's running those stories, those internal stories, in the background of your mind, and keeping you as though you're feeling safe. But in all actuality, you're abandoning yourself. You're putting your needs last. You're not actually doing anything that's helping you to be your true and authentic self. The conditional identity, it's always going to be unstable. It essentially, the moment that the condition is threatened, you're going to feel anxiety, you're going to feel loss, you're going to feel fear, and or collapse, essentially. And this is what your nervous system has been trying to stop you from feeling. It doesn't mean that these feelings are bad. It just means that your nervous system has interpreted from a young age that these are the things that we don't want. So essentially, this is why people overthink. This is why people please. This is why people perform in their relationships and try to be everything to everyone and not actually knowing who they truly are, and being everything that they truly are for themselves. This is why they fear being misunderstood, or rejected, or just left and abandoned. So all of this happens because your nervous system believes that if I stop meeting the condition, then I'm going to lose connection. And essentially, You may lose some connections because not everyone is going to be connected to your truth, to the authentic version of who you are. There's going to be people in your life, or there could be people in your life that are connected to this false self, to this survival self. But the real problem, it's not behavior, it's just structure, is all it is. It's a conditional identity that, as long as you are keeping it, you're not being yourself. You are just maintaining attachment, actually at the cost of yourself. And every time you're maintaining this attachment, you're actually abandoning yourself. So the thing that you're so afraid of other people abandoning you is something that you are actually doing to yourself. Um, when identity becomes unconditional, um, when you're no longer when you no longer need to be a certain way to deserve connection, to belong, or to be worthy, that's when performance stops. That's when you start to show up as your true and authentic self. And when the performance stops, you're going to start getting so much clarity around who you actually are and why you had to be the way that you were, without judgment. Hopefully, without judgment. You don't want to judge yourself for being the survival aspect of who you had to be. You were that person in order to survive. That version of who you are, or who you were, got you to this point. So hopefully, there's no judgment on that. Some relationships throughout this are going to destabilize. Some deepen, and the truth of it is both of them are needed. You need to have the destabilized relationships fall apart. And that doesn't mean that they're necessarily over. The destabilized relationships, they can fall apart, and then if both parties choose, they can rebuild in a more healthy, more stable kind of way. Obviously, that's up to both parties. And the ones that, the people that were connected to you based on your truth and on the authentic version of who you are, that those relationships can deepen because when you are your authentic self, you are actually able to better show up for other people. That's not just a catchphrase. It's not just like some woo woo kind of stuff. It is actually 100% true. When you are your true and authentic self, you just show up so much better for people. And the truth of it is, being your survival self is exhausting. It feels heavy, and you're exhausted because this identity is conditional. Once you start to see how you've had to be in order to survive, and the identity that you have attached to, the stories that you have told yourself based on this false identity, the beliefs that you have taken on based on this false identity. Once you start to see these, you can't unsee them. And that's when you know it's time to change and it's time to move forward and to really strip back these layers of the false self, of this false identity, to figure out who you truly are and to figure out who is your true and authentic identity. Because under all of that, survival is you. It's not about adding more stuff. It's not about doing more. It's actually about stripping the parts of you away that are not authentically who you are. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you back here next time.